Yes, we're going to talk about the Twins losing the Yankees. This is such a unique story. We never get to talk about that, so we will get to that. But listen, we're talking here on Friday morning. We're a baseball. One of us is a former baseball player and a baseball broadcaster. That's Roy Smalley, LaVelle, Neal, myself are former baseball beat writers who now are general columnists who still write a lot about baseball. But we can't ignore that one of the most bizarre stories in the history of sports is occurring as we're speaking this morning. Scotty Scheffler was pulled over trying to get into Valhalla Golf Club. A cop jumped on the side of his car, pulled him out of his car, handcuffed him, and took him to jail where he was photographed wearing an orange jumpsuit. I mean, guys, this is why I would never bet on sports. Imagine you bet a lot of money on Scotty Scheffler this week because he's the best player in the world, and then you end up losing money because he's in jail for the weekend.
This thing is driving me absolutely insane. I think that as best I can tell, and maybe maybe new shit will come to light, but best I can tell, there was a bad accident. A bus hit a pedestrian. There were, right out near the entrance to Valhalla, traffic is stopped, backed up. Scotty Scheffler's trying to get in to the entrance of Valhalla. Maybe he should not have gone around a couple of cars and bypassed kind of the chaos and tried to get into his place of business. But maybe he shouldn't have done that. But the cop yanking him out, throwing him in handcuffs, taking him to jail, putting a jumpsuit on. I mean, really, it's mind-boggling to me.
And they threw a felony charge at him with second-degree assault, which I think is trumped up and should be wiped off immediately. Based on the photos I saw, it looked like it would be hard to determine if those guys are actually police officers, based on what they're wearing. They had the guy had like an orange slicker all over him. So, and I don't know what's gone on in the past. Have players running the traffic trying to get into a golf course and just driven around it and gotten waved through because they are a player, and maybe that was what Scotty was doing. So this is baffling. It just looks like it's an overreaction by security guard / officer, who was trying to probably work a fortunate tragic situation. So it just looks like it could be a misunderstanding. Overblown.
Well, I mean, I've covered a lot of major golf tournaments. The Masters is different because everything's so organized and it's there every year. Everybody knows the routine. But major golf tournaments other than the Masters, you basically, this entire conglomerate tent city, ready to serve hundreds of thousands of people, moves into a city, and they're bringing in people, security guards, off-duty police officers, on-duty police officers. They're trying to throw this event, and there are a lot of moving parts. And LaVelle, you and I have been through this as sports writers. You're always, whenever you're in a town and you're driving, you're always dealing with people. And this guy might be a parking lot attendant. This might be an off-duty cop. This might be a security guard who doesn't know anything. This might be an on-duty cop. You don't know who you're dealing with. And you're just trying to get to do your job, right? And I can't tell you how many times I've had somebody pull a power play on me because they had the power. They got either the badge or the security guard emblem, or they're just a parking lot attendant who was working at 7-Eleven last week, and now they're in charge. And I can't tell you how many times people have pulled power plays on me, and I'm nobody, And for the number one golfer in the world driving a PGA marked car who's 10 feet from the entrance and pulled around two cars, one of which didn't have a driver and it wasn't going to be moving. I mean, that's what I would have done, and luckily for us, there were ESPN reporters, including Jeff Darlington, who's a very well-respected reporter, who were in a car right there with Scheffler, who were documenting it and keeping an eye on this. I mean, who knows what would have happened otherwise? This is absolutely bonkers. And I'm watching, again, we're talking here on Friday morning. This is Chin Music, our baseball show at talknorth.com. And it looks like Scheffler's trying to save par on the first hole he eagled yesterday. So I don't know. I don't care how calm he is. There's no way he can just settle down and play golf after this.
No, I can't see how. And it's too bad because
I take it back. He's putting for birdie.
No.
he just made birdie. Never mind, he just made birdie. Oh my God! I love Scotty Scheffler. He's such a good guy, but man, I've never rooted for anybody harder than I'm rooting for him right now.
Yeah, right. I just wish he would play this round in the orange jumpsuit.
I said though, I said it on Twitter. Ricky Fowler's gonna sue. I mean, orange is Ricky's color. All right. We will. This is not a golf show. We're going to get off of golf. We're going to talk about the Yankees, the Twins, everything else going on. This is Chin Music. This is our baseball show at TalkNorth.com. You're hearing from Roy Smalley, former Twins great, current Twins broadcaster, LaVelle, Neal, and myself, two-star Tribune columnists. Brandon Morton is our producer. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services studios, and we want to thank Aquarius Home Services, Your Boat Club, Minnesota Masonic Charities, and Twill in the Edina Galleria. All right. I hate it when the Yankees beat the Twins, especially when they beat them badly, because it just brings up all the old whininess from everybody. Listen, the Twins did not play well. They did not play well offensively. This is not the end of the season. And next time they see the Yankees, maybe they'll have Royce Lewis and Buxton going, and they'll be a better team. But just to look at it, not from the overall fake curse aspect, from just a baseball aspect, why do you think the Yankees, especially their pitchers, were so effective against the Twins in this series, Roy?
Well, first of all, those guys have pretty good stuff. I mean, they really do. They're not guys that are borderline AAA Major League players on the cusp. I mean, they have good stuff. The Twins got, I think, against a good pitching staff, just got a little overexposed because of the lack of. Because the guys that are hurt, most notably, Buxton and Royce Lewis, as you say. But this is a team that went through a streak scoring a whole bunch of runs against, some pitching that, arguably was not quite this, as good as the Yankee pitching is. And they're going to go through streaks where, because they need everybody in the lineup swinging the bat pretty well, or they need a couple of guys to really carry them. When neither of those things happen, they're going to go through some streaks where they don't score a lot of runs, and Jeffers and Kepler and Santana for the most part carried the club, but they also had in this good streak, but they also had real contributions from just about everybody else, Julian and I can't on his name, the guy that unfortunately didn't play center field very well.
Willie Castro?
Willie Castro.
Yep. Castro. I mean,
he's an infielder. He's not an outfielder.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, they just ran into a streak where neither of the two things they need, either a whole bunch of guys swinging well or two or three guys to really carry them. And it didn't quite happen. And just from a hitting standpoint, this won't be the last time, until they get a lineup that is in there every day with everybody that's supposed to be in there every day. Yeah, you're just going to run through some streaks like this, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Castle's bat at fifth in the order yesterday. That's to show you where Rocco is with putting up a lineup. Plus, day game after night game, resting a couple guys. But I mean, look at their 7, 8, 9 hitters yesterday. Kirilloff, who's struggling. Margot, who hasn't hit since he's joined the team. And Vasquez, who hasn't hit in a year and a half. It's hard to sustain offense or get a couple guys on base to be driven in when you're bunching up those types of hitter. And Julian is a mess right now. He's striking out left and right, and he's his batting average is down to 222. So, and I just think they face some really good pitching, and it's going to take everybody being on point to get the offense going. I'd never seen Clark Schmidt pitch before. I was really impressed with that guy. He throws an array of pitches. He's around the plate. He works hitters. And there's been a lot of talk lately about pitching has gone from being north-south to east and west, especially with the proliferation of the sweeper. And, it looks like he's got some stuff that does that as well. So, tip your hat to the Yankees. The Twins aren't whole yet as offensive unit. Hopefully that will change the next few days with Buxton coming back. And I don't know. I mean, this is a separate conversation. I'm still not expecting Royce Lewis back until the All-Star break, although they're sending out signals that it could be earlier than that. And maybe he's a fast healer, but I'm expecting July more so than June with him. So we're not going to see the best of this lineup yet. But you got to move on. You got Cleveland now, division opponent. You can make the Indians pay for what happened to them against the Yankees.
Roy, which hitters? I mean, listen, hitters go through slumps, teams go through slumps. Which of the Twins hitters do you think is dealing with more than a slump, something more serious than a slump, and might need some recalibration?
Boy, that's a great question. First one that comes to mind is not a hitter that they're really counting on. I mean, the most glaring example, though, is Vasquez. He is pulling off. It looks like every pitch that comes up there, he's made up his mind about a third of the way to the plate on the ball, a third of the way getting to the plate, and is yanking his whole front side toward left field, and it's really surprising to me for a veteran guy like that. He's gotten a lot of. We've seen him when he played for other teams, and a couple of years ago with the Twins. We've seen him shoot balls to right center, right field, center field. I mean, there's none of that, and he just looks like he's a total mess in that way. Probably Kirilloff makes me the most concerned with his approach, with his background. I mean, with what he's done, up until he got to the big leagues and dealt with injuries. You would think that his past success at every level, and even as good as he has looked in the big leagues, he doesn't have the kind of swing or approach that, to me, looks like he would struggle like this. And I don't know really what to say about that, other than he swings the bat really well against fastballs out over the plate and away. They're starting to pitch him in, and maybe it's got his mind messed up, where he's not getting the fastballs in, and so, as we talk about all the time, you start rushing, you do some different things mechanically, and all of a sudden you can't hit any pitch that comes up there. He would bother me. I mean, he is bothering me. I just don't, because I don't understand. He has so much talent and such a good approach up until here recently. Every hitter goes through it. He's going to be no different than anybody else. I just wouldn't have expected. That's what I'm saying. I wouldn't have expected him to be so deep in the throes of these things that happen to the rest of us. So those are the guys that jump out to me. Julian is a little bit concerning, but he's got a lot of talent as well. I think he'll probably get it going. But I do believe that if some of the guys in AAA were not hurt, they might have been seriously considering, most notably Brooks Lee, they might seriously have considered having him up here.
Roy, let me ask you this. Last year, when we were talking with some Twins folks about Kirilloff playing in the outfield, the response was, you do not want Alex Kirilloff in the outfield. Is there a chance that the fact that he's out playing in a position a lot that he's not comfortable with, it's leaking over to his offense, or is that overblown?
That could be. I think that he's professional enough not to let it, let it affect him this much. The way it might, LaVelle, I think it's a good question. And the way it might is it looks to me like he feels like, I've got to put up more extra base hits. I've got to hit the ball long now. And that's just for him. Especially, that's tough for any hitter. That's bad for any hitter. But for him especially, it's not the way his swing is built. It's kind of a la Joe Mauer, where everybody says, look for the ball inside and hit it in the right field seats. And that he went through about a very few days thinking about and trying to do that, and then said, no, this doesn't work for me. And I don't think it works for Kirilloff either. Now, he does have to figure out, if they're going to pitch him in, he has to figure out what to do about that. But I think it's more those kinds of things, LaVelle, than it's affecting him. Playing defense is affecting his hitting. I know Toby Gardenhart told Timmy Laudner several years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, maybe, when Kirilloff was playing both first base and outfield, down there, and maybe it was longer ago than that. And Toby said, he's got to play first. That's going to be his best position. So I think he's out of position out there, probably.
Yeah. Hey, let's get to Brooks Lee, Jeffers, what we expect from Buxton. First, we do want to let you know we're coming to the Aquarius Home Services Studios. We want to thank your boat club.
Got the winter blues? Start planning your summer. Plan on fun and get out in the water with your boat club. Your boat club offers boat club memberships and daily rentals with access to over 40 bodies of water and over 400 brand new boats to enjoy. Whether you want to cruise on a pontoon, create waves in a speedboat, or reel in a big one on a fishing boat, your boat club has got you covered. Unlimited boating memberships are available now, starting at just $1.99 a month after a one-time initiation. Life is better on the water. Find out more today at yourboatclub.com.
We also want to thank Minnesota Masonic Charities.
When people think of the Freemasons, they often think of secret handshakes and unusual hats, and of course, the pancake breakfast. Minnesota Masonic Charities would prefer that you think about the work that they do right here in our community. Places like the Masonic Cancer Center at the University of Minnesota or the Masonic Children's Hospital and the Masonic Home in Bloomington. They are just a few examples of the important work that the Freemasons support here in Minnesota. As part of the largest fraternal organization in the world, Masons have consistently answered the call when it comes to charitable needs. We look forward to learning so much more about their many programs here in the weeks to come.
And a reminder, make sure you visit if you need men's clothing or a gift for a man in your life. Twill by Scott Dayton, Edina Galleria, all kinds of great stuff. They've had a bunch of events. Sign up for the newsletters at twillmn.com. They will not spam you. They'll just let you know when they have an event. My favorite men's clothing store, probably the best men's clothing store in Minnesota. Go check them out. Brooks Lee, how far away do you think he is, LaVelle? And could he be this year's Julian who comes up and makes a difference?
Well, I think right now with Brooks starting to get back online here, he's probably going to need a nice stretch of games in the minors before you can start projecting that. So I would just a safe thought would be like another month or so. But yeah, he has that ability. Switch hitter, can play multiple infield positions. Also can be, a motivational factor for Julian if he continues to struggle. He can be tried out at second, and Julian can go to St. Paul and work on a few things. But I went over to St. Paul a lot of times, several times last year, and watched Lee. And I didn't see a guy who was really dialed in. So I never saw him hit. So I don't know how much damage he can do at the plate. And I can't remember on top of my head. I think he still needs to work on his right-handed swing versus his lefty, maybe the other way around. But his splits were, I think, a little extreme from one side of the plate to the other. But he's got talent. He's got the pedigree. Played for his father, and was highly regarded. So I coming out of spring training, we talked about this, that the Twins infield of the future probably had Julian at first and Brooks Lee at second. I still think that's a long-term plan for them. It may be delayed a little bit this year because Carlos Santana is needed to play first, but we're going to see that alignment, and you may start seeing it here whenever Lee's ready to get called up and contribute.
What do you think, Roy?
Well, I didn't jump in there because I think LaVelle knows about what's going on down there better than I, and described it very well. My gut tells me he's going to be a good offensive player, and we'll just have to wait and see. He does have to prove himself in AAA. If he had a monster, trip part of the season that he played in AAA last year, then I think you say, we just need to get him healthy and get him up here. I still think, as you guys know, I'm a very strong believer in the guy's got to conquer AAA first before you can't just bring him up here because you think someday he's going to be big league hitter. If he's not hitting in AAA, there's no sense bringing him up here. So I think it's up to him. He's just got to he's got to get back healthy and start swinging the bat again, like he always has at every level up until now. So he's got to do that. And if he does that for LaVelle's month or month and a half, then I think there's a pretty good chance we see him up here.
One of the downsides of Vasquez looking helpless at the plate is, you can't just say, okay, we'll have Jeffers play some first base or play other positions. He's going to have to catch for this to be a good offensive team. LaVelle.
Yeah, he's got to catch and he's got to be functional. I mean, the Twins have had light hitting catchers in the backup catcher. I guess, let's see, Vasquez caught, I believe, 71 games last year. So it's not necessarily a backup. It's kind of a timeshare. But I think about Tom Prince and I think about Drew Patera, guys who couldn't make consistent contact. And Vasquez is in that mode. But as I wrote in Thursday's paper, Rock was committed to playing both, keeping Jeffers in the lineup as much as possible. So that means if Jeffers is a DH one day, then Vasquez has to catch and has to figure out a way to get his bat going. And listening to Roy talk about Vasquez, I'm wondering if that's a guy who is battling the fact that his bat may be a tick slow, and he is trying to guess a little bit more just so he can get that swing going. But they're going to need him. I mean, he's making $10 million a year. That's not going to stop. You might as well see what you can get out of him. I mean, they've got Yair Camargo at AAA, and I texted with the PR guy there the other day. I said, "What's the longest home run you've seen Camargo hit?" And he said 496. But then StatCast wiped it out. The guy has power. All right, he has hit some bombs there. I would just love to see him, even if it's 210. I just love to see him run into the field. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think the Twins are ready to do that, especially when they're on the hook for Vasquez for another year and a half. But yeah, I don't know. Stranger things have happened. They may get into August here and say we got to win games and make a move here. But Vasquez is going to play. His role now is to keep Jeffers fresh enough to keep his bat in the lineup, and he needs to stick to what his strengths are, which is handling a pitching staff.
What?
Yeah,
Roy,
it's concerning. As I mentioned, it's concerning though, as how much he looks to be struggling. But I'll just echo, they do need him to play.
Roy, and then LaVelle, what is the rational expectation for Buxton as an offensive player right now? Do we need to downgrade expectations, or is he still capable of getting comfortable, getting hot, and carrying a team?
I think that's impossible to know. I mean, again, just judging from what my gut tells me is that there are some big numbers coming as soon as he gets things, figured out. And as soon as to use your words, until he, when he gets comfortable, there are some issues with his swing and his approach. I mean, I've talked about it a lot for several years, and he has so much talent and so much bat speed that he can overcome how he wants to pull the ball. He wants to hit the ball out in front of him all the time, even with two strikes, and he's going to be vulnerable to to good fastballs on the higher end of inside and on the higher side of the strike zone, and it then consequently makes it really vulnerable to breaking balls. I will say this: if you throw him a breaking ball strike, it's got a chance to be hit at 115 miles an hour. I mean, he's pretty good at breaking balls in the zone, but he recognizes those okay, even though he tends to be way out in front because of him trying to pull fastballs. But he's vulnerable, as we've seen, vulnerable to chase down and away or low. And then when he's tried to, it looks like especially with two strikes, when he's thought about some kind of way of waiting and identifying breaking pitch, then they happen to throw him a good fastball and he's late. And I think that messes with his mind a bit. And I'm just going to go back and sound like a broken record with a lot of these guys, but with the talent that he has, if he would just move if he would work on letting fastballs travel just a little longer and be comfortable hitting the ball off the wall to right center instead of everything having to be down the left field line. I think there's no telling where his talent would take him. Right now, he's anything that happens is all just the fact that he's got tremendous bat speed and tremendous ability, because the mechanics and the approach aren't there right now.
There is evidence that this knee issue that Buxton went down with was an issue weeks before he actually landed on the IL. So I can't help but think that maybe that's affecting his swing at the plate. I don't know if it's affecting his weight shift or how he's able to put a load on that knee, but this may have been inevitable the way things were headed with him. And maybe this is a good thing that he was able to get off of it for, a week or two to rehab, to rest, and get back out there. So I'm hoping that that's the case, because you want to see him. You want to see him at his best. You want to see him fully healthy, because we've seen what he can do when he's fully healthy. So we'll see. Because when he was going good, he knew that he would try to hit the ball with the second baseman's head, and that kept him on the ball. And he got a lot of positive results like that. And so I hope that he can get back to doing that now that he's had some time on the IL, maybe some time to rest here, to get off that knee, and maybe he can fire out now for the rest of the season.
All right, we'll get back to baseball and maybe outrage about how professional golfers are treated next week. Today, I want to talk a little music, just because I like talking music with you guys. So I had a trip to Denver for a Wolves playoff game. I'm always looking for new concert videos to watch. Because my band is starting to play an Oasis song, I got an old Oasis concert video. They are playing in their hometown of Manchester, playing in a stadium, hosted one of their favorite soccer teams. It was like this big epic thing for the band. And, they're not like one of my 10 favorite bands or anything, but I like Noel Gallagher's guitar playing, and they kind of had a moment. So I was interested in watching it. And they get toward the end of the concert, they're in their hometown, and they sold the place out. It's this epic moment for them. And Noel starts calling Liam Gallagher names that I can't repeat on a podcast, just saying, he's a bleeping, 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 bleep. And then they just go into their next song. And they hate each other, but I didn't know that they, like, during the biggest concert of their lives, they actually just screamed at each other. And they just went back to playing music. It just reminds you, they have a slightly different job than the rest of us.
Good Lord. When did they sing Wonderwall? At the beginning or the end of the concert?
Toward the end. Yeah. They saved the hits for the end for the big applause lines. But it's just hilarious. So do you guys have anything going on in your musical lives? Are you watching or listening to anything, or do you want to recommend anything to us? Either you can go first.
Well, I just heard a song by one of my favorite guys the other day that I had not heard before. You guys know that I'm a big Walter Trout fan. Yep. I'm a blues guitar riff fan. And there's a song that and if anybody out there has not listened to Me, My Guitar, and the Blues, drop everything and go listen to that right now. But I just heard a song called Broken. It's really good. And here's one of the ways that I know that a song is kind of special is we're riding. My wife and I are riding in the car, and I'm flipping around satellite radio, and I hit on this on him playing Broken, and I turned to my wife and said, bear with me, because I want to. This is one of my favorite guys. I want to listen to it. And when it was all done, she said, "Man, that was really good." I go, wait. You mean I can put it on a list? I can put it on a list that we'll listen to, that you'll listen to at some point in time. She goes, "Oh yeah, that's really good."
Fantastic. So
Walter Trout's my guy. Me, My Guitar, and the Blues is maybe the best, one of my favorite songs of all time. But he's got one I had not heard called Broken, and that's really good too.
I'll check it out. LaVelle, you got anything?
No, I'm just going to double down on Roy. I'm a big Walter Trout guy too. I know I got a couple of his albums somewhere, and I believe he actually played downtown St. Paul. There was like a little Blues in the Park thing. I think he showed up and played in that, and it was right after. I want to say he was battling cancer. I think it was right after he kicked cancer's ass. And he made an appearance at downtown St. Paul at this park. I think it was Mears Park. and it was excellent, absolutely excellent. So yeah, he's on my list of favorite guitar guys as well.
Yeah, so many of us who play guitar, we have a saying, we would answer the question, how many more guitars you need? Well, just one more. It's always just one more. And I'm always fascinated by guys like Jimmy Vaughn and Walter Trout. They basically have one guitar and they just play the crap out of it. And it's not even like a special $10,000 custom shop guitar. It's just a, off the rack guitar that they just play until it's broken in. And I think I told you guys this story before. People who don't know Walter Trout, not only should listen to his music, read up on his life and how he made it. He's a fascinating guy. But like I think he had his guitar either lost or stolen, his favorite guitar. And Seymour Duncan, the great pickup maker who, made pickups for Pete Townsend and Jimi Hendrix and all these other guys during their heyday, basically just reconstructed his old guitar and sent him one, which I thought was guitar people take care of each other.
Yeah, it was liver cancer Trout had in 2014, and he had a liver transplant, and he has rocked on ever since.
He's fantastic. Good stuff, gentlemen. I appreciate it. We'll talk more about our outrage over Scotty Scheffler, Twins, Yankees, and music next week here on Chin Music at TalkNorth.com.